welcome to you all, and thank you for taking the time to invest in your own health and learning a little bit about longevity and what kind of goes into longevity and aging as a whole. My name is Juan Valencia. I am one of the senior product specialists with Fruitful Yield. Me and my colleagues help to educate and train almost 100 staff at 11 different stores. And so we are very focused, very heavy on education and supplements, right? And how we can use them and what they're for, and how we can build foundations on top of them, because it's not always just about supplements, right? That the information in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only, right? It's not intended to diagnose, to treat, to give medical advice at all. It's really just here for that information, and we can use that information to do things in our lives, right? Knowledge is power, and it'll definitely help us make a better choice. With that covered, let's go over what longevity really means, right? Because there's so many things on the internet nowadays that kind of say, hey, this is, longevity should look like this or like that. And if you're not doing this, oh, you're not going to live to 200 like that one doctor said you're going to. But fortunately, it's not like that, right? It's so much more open and optimistic because it's about thriving for years, right? Like we were saying a little bit earlier, thriving for years through balanced nutrition, through balanced exercise, and even targeted supplementation wherever we could use it. It's also about maintaining good physical and mental health, right? Because not only do we want to be able to withstand everything that the years throw at us, but also be able to be ourselves for as long as possible as well, right? We exist in this body, but who we know as our personality is up here. And we want to make sure that is around for as long as possible. And we are as I would say, as independent, right, for as long as possible as well. There are other factors as well, like improving health span. This is not just, again, about how long you live, because it'd be great to live to 200, but what if the last 100 years is just you in a wheelchair, right? And you've kind of outlived everyone? I don't know. There's scenarios in my head, but there's so many different aspects of that as well. So we want to improve health span. We want to improve the health that we do have so that we can actually enjoy those years for as long as possible, right? And then sustaining vitality as we age, because we want to also be able to do what we would like to do with our bodies, right, for as long as possible as well. And having that vitality and energy to take us through those years is incredibly important. So there are so many things that we can't control, right? Genetics, for some people, it really is dependent on many of what they're born with. But I like to focus on the things that we can control. And I always say that's an incredible opportunity and a power. And let's take that power and do something with it, right? Because again, knowledge, right? Knowledge is power. So let's ask why it matters. And that's a big thing, right? Because again, it's not just about living longer, it's about living better. And by maintaining our physical and mental health, we can enjoy a higher quality of life as we age. And this means staying active and independent for as long as possible. Self-sufficient, right, is another big one. You want to be able to do things for yourself for as long as possible as well. But it's also about knowing the risks of aging, because as we age, everything gets worse, pretty much, right? There's almost nothing that doesn't get worse, especially the things that really matter, like quality of sleep and memory, and just being able to be sharp with how we learn in the future, and the things that we can pull up out of memory really quickly. That recall is incredibly important. So it's also about vitality, right? Enhancing that energy and that resiliency as we age as well. And ultimately, we want to focus on health span, the number of years that we live healthily, as opposed to just how long. So this approach helps us make the most of the years that we have, and really does kind of give us that power of like, what, I can, as long as I take care of myself in these ways, and I am making sure that I'm incorporating these different kinds of habits, I know the foundations, I know, why aging occurs, and all these different kind of aspects of, just being informed and being able to make better choices, then we can, again, that's power that we can take with us. So let's look at the foundations. You probably have heard of all of these before, but it's really important to know that the foundations of longevity start with our lifestyle habits, right? It's not anything, it's not a pill in a bottle. It's not that secret elixir that one guy wants to sell you for $200 or even more. It starts with how we live, it really does. And the research is very clear that exercise, like strength training, right? Nutrition, getting protein with every meal, sleep, good quality sleep, but also focusing on our circadian rhythm and making sure that's in a healthy way as well, right? Getting getting that morning sunlight to balance out your circadian rhythm, but also to going to sleep at the same time also helps to balance that out. It means that we can have higher quality of sleep every single night the more consistent we are. So another aspect is stress resiliency and recovery, right? How well we manage our stress will definitely determine how many kind of years we have in our lives. And that's true, right? Stress literally just takes stuff out of our lives, right? It takes years out of our life. I like to say that. And then next is social connection and purpose, right? Arguably one of the most important aspects of aging. And science actually proves that for sure. Has anyone heard of the blue zones? Yeah, blue zones. So for those who don't know, the blue zones are the areas in the world where people live the longest and usually the happiest as well. And they have a huge population of people who live over 100, called centenarians. A very high amount of centenarians there. And these are places like Okinawa, Japan, Loma Linda, California. And I'm like always forgetting the one that's in Italy, but Singapore is emerging as a blue zone because of quality of life and how long people are living and how happy they are over there as well, and a variety of other reasons too. Unfortunately, Okinawa, Japan is actually slowly losing their blue zone status because of the fact of westernization. We're seeing a lot more fast food restaurants open up, and a lot of those Western habits kind of creep into the Japanese way of life over there in Okinawa. And we're starting to see less and less of those habits really continue in Japan. So it's incredibly important. And some of the biggest things that they have in common are the fact that they are very social. They see their friends and their family every single day. They have lunch, they have dinner, they walk with each other, they go to do activities together. It's an everyday thing for them. It's not a once a week or a once a month, every once in a while. When I see you, I'll see you. It's all right, I'll see you tomorrow. Every single day. And that really does make a difference because it lowers so many different factors in our body that causes things like inflammation and stress. And it may even help with movement, right? Because you're doing things with people as well. Nutrients and having meals together. All those different ways of that we can essentially support longevity is really the blue zone way, and it's really these foundations here. And to round it out, supplements, when targeted, can make a huge difference in making sure that we are getting enough nutrition, right? That's a huge one. Things like vitamin D and K2, or taurine, or omega-3s. All those are foundational vitamins and nutrients that we need every single day, and we may or may not be able to get from our food, especially nowadays with soil depletion and our habits, modern life that's just so fast-paced. It's really hard to get everything we need to get. So supplementation, when it's targeted, can be substantial in how well it actually affects our longevity. So let's jump into why we age. Because as of 2023, scientists have identified the 12 main causes of aging. They call them the hallmarks of aging. And they explain why we slow down over time. And over the next few slides, we'll go ahead and look at all of these reasons. They're kind of like the leaks in the boat that we're trying to address. And the first four here are the root causes of aging, right? Those are things like DNA damage that accumulates, the chromosome ends, those telomeres. Anyone ever heard of telomeres? Right, those chromosome ends, those ends of at the end of our DNA, right? They are pretty long when we are first born, but over time as we age, but also with the habits that we decide to live by, those can actually shorten. Those little telomeres, they shorten and shorten and shorten. And there's a lot of good scientific evidence to show that the length of your telomeres is associated with your longevity and the quality of your longevity and how long, how well you're treating your body. Chromosome ends, right? That's it. Gene switches. A lot of times the genes can flip in the wrong way due to just natural aging, right? And then lastly, the proteins right at the end there, they misfold and they start to junk up. And this is something obviously we can't control, but it's definitely setting the stage for the aging process. These middle four represent functional decline. And these are things like the cells stop taking out the trash. That's huge. The energy sensors start to get confused, meaning how well you use your energy in your body and how we can utilize that also gets harder to do as we age. The mitochondria, they start to tire out and they leak, and we need them, right? That's a powerhouse of the cell, right? We all learned that in school, the mitochondria. So we need to be able to create energy, and the mitochondria are there to help us. But when they get tired and they leak out, we can't do it as well. And then lastly here, senescent cells or zombie cells stick around and they cause inflammation. And specifically, they call them zombie cells because of that fact. They hang around after they've used up everything that they have, and they're dysfunctional, but they don't go away, they stay there, and they start to leak different inflammatory compounds. So it's only non-beneficial for us to have those zombie cells hanging around. And this is where compounds like spermidine or urolithin A can really make a difference. And lastly, these final four represent systemic decline. So the repair cells start to deplete, right? So the cells that are in charge of repairing your body, coming in and saying, hey, we got some damage here, let's get this repaired, we don't make as many of those as we age it, unfortunately. Next, the cell signaling starts to falter, meaning the cells stop talking to each other as well as they used to be able to. Thirdly, or 11thly, low-grade inflammation persists. It's kind of like a low-grade fire that just happens and is continuously happening throughout the body. And then lastly, gut microbiome imbalances can occur. We call this gut dysbiosis. So addressing all of these 12 causes of aging, right, these hallmarks of aging, are really just crucial for maintaining overall health and vitality and longevity as we age. But it's definitely not all doom and gloom. It's really about a knowledge, right? Again, it's good to know what these are, and that science and scientists have come to a conclusion. These 12 are the main causes.
Now let's start by going over the 14 studied and targeted compounds that support these 12 hallmarks we've been talking about. Starting with NMN and NR, then spermidine, and then urolithin A, calcium AKG, fisetin and quercetin, and it's going to be important that these two are together, especially because of their synergy. And also important for their synergy, NAC and glycine, often referred to as GlyNAC. Next is taurine. And here's where we get into the foundational ones. Omega-3s, incredibly important and essential. Magnesium. Who's not taking that, right? Then, of course, vitamin D3 and K2.
So the first one being NMN and NR, if you like NR, but NMN is probably one of the easiest ones to go with. These are natural compounds derived from vitamin B3 that we can naturally get from foods like broccoli and avocado and even brewer's yeast as well. They're essentially precursors to NAD+. But why does that matter, right? Why do we need NMN? Well, like I just said, it's a precursor to NAD+. And NAD+ is a cofactor for energy production in the body and even DNA repair too. So if we're talking about keeping our DNA intact and using it for as long as possible, NAD+ is crucial. But as we get older, we just don't make it as well as we used to. So these two are going to be incredibly important. Now, the difference between NMN and NR is really just one step of conversion. NMN converts directly into NAD+. NR requires one more step, but then after that, it gets converted into NAD+ as well. It's completely up to you in terms of how you'd like it. I know there's some people who have preference. Me personally, I say NMN is the easiest, why not? But some people love the science behind NR. So with these, we can support our cellular energy, DNA repair like I was talking to you about, but also the repair mechanisms and even your metabolism as well. as well as your endurance. So if any of those sound really good to you, then NAD plus is definitely a way to support those areas in the body. So studies show that boosting these NAD plus levels that you can do by taking NMN and NR is a way to support overall health span. And it's pretty solid in the science. Now, I don't want to just talk about the compounds and not give you an idea of what they look like when it comes to a product. And again, this is in your list here. So I'll show you a few of what we have, and you can have an idea of what I mean by them. So Black Forest is one brand that we carry that is kind of like a longevity brand, actually. They focus on a lot of those longevity compounds at really good prices too. But what they have here is 1 gram of bioavailable NMN. And that's important because 1 gram is the same serving size that was studied by Harvard to actually show that the NAD plus level increase is substantial at that level. So it's not just like, hey, here's NMN. No, it's, hey, here's NMN, and this is how they studied it, and this is actually going to be the amount that really supports that NAD plus production in the body. So like we said earlier, it's going to support all those things, the energy, the endurance, the metabolism, but it also is complex with a little bit of black pepper in the form of BioPerine. And so definitely a great option here for NMN. We do have one other brand, Nutri. That's another one of our longevity brands. They do offer NMN in this way as well. It's just a little bit lower at 300 milligrams, though they do make up for it by adding 25 milligrams of the quercetin. And that's a very absorbable form of quercetin, as well as black pepper, just like the last brand, to, again, increase the absorption. So definitely a great option there for some people who maybe, want a good place to start in terms of, energy, the metabolism, the endurance within the cell. All those are really great. I know I mentioned NR, so I'll just talk about what we have here for NR. Life extension. Has anyone heard of life extension? There's the grain side, there's the bean side, like wheat and soybeans, but also things like aged cheeses and even mushrooms. You can get spermidine from. Has anyone had wheat germ? Right, so that's an amazing way to go about it. When I was really getting into health at young age of like 14, I would actually go and buy some wheat germ and put it in my cereal, right? Because it's one of those things that I just heard so much about, and I feel like it lost some of that attention for a long time. And then when spermidine came around again, they were like, yeah, eat some wheat germ. Oh yeah, that's what people used to do, and now it's kind of back again, like a lot of trends are. A big point, though, for spermidine is that it supports autophagy. And autophagy is overall cellular renewal, which is incredibly important, right? Our bodies can naturally essentially start autophagy during different, I would say, different stages in our body. Has anyone tried fasting before? Right? So fasting for a certain amount of hours will actually induce autophagy. I think it's around the 24 to 36 hour mark, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people, though, don't want to stop eating for a whole day and a half to get some of that cellular renewal benefit. So spermidine is a great option for that because it actually activates that. And so it's really important that autophagy stays a very common thing within our body because it's in charge of recycling those old damaged cells and bringing in new ones, right? So we can have efficient cells working towards our favor again. And as we get older, again, it's just not as easy. It's just harder to kind of say, hey, let's go ahead and refresh all these cells again and bring brand new ones in. It's not as easy. It's quite literally the whole like, hey, I'm no spring chicken anymore. I don't renew my cells like I used to. And so unlike some compounds, spermidine actually, again, is autophagy. It's whole cell renewal. There's another phrase, mitophagy. That's just a renewal of the mitochondria within the cell. But this does it all, right? This is in the entire cell, including the mitochondria within the cell. So very amazing. And again, spermidine, very special compound. We actually only have one product that one company and one product that actually focuses on spermidine. So that kind of shows you how niche it is. Black Forest. So this is actually a very special serving size. It's at 12 milligrams, which is actually really nice because what we've seen on the market is so much less, 3 to 4 milligrams. For, honestly, it's still a really high amount of money. This is a 4-month supply. and it's around the $30 to $40 mark for 4 months worth of spermidine, which is actually amazing. And we know this company is great at doing studies and having the certification, so we know it's a good quality brand. And they're doing some good work providing a really budget-friendly way to get spermidine in and support that autophagy within the body. So it's also plant-based, non-GMO, and again, it's got all the certifications that you're looking for. So definitely a great option here. Next compound is fisetin and quercetin. I'm sure most of us are probably taking quercetin, right? Quercetin is incredibly beneficial, but these two are plant compounds found in foods like strawberries and apples and onions and greens. And so if you eat these foods, you're naturally getting some fisetin and some quercetin. These act as senolytics. I kind of mentioned senescent cells earlier, those zombie cells. These are senolytics in the way of they actually help to clear some of those, support the targeted removal of these dysfunctional cells. Again, they secrete harmful factors, and they're just kind of lingering, kind of not really doing much for us, those zombie cells. So it only helps our health span and longevity if we can clear those out. And fisetin and quercetin have been shown to help to support that process as well. Together, though, they work much better than apart. Kind of like a lot of things. It has been shown in studies that we are seeing a multi times amount of an increase of senescent cell clearance when they have been combined in that way. But they also support a healthy inflammatory response. And again, low-grade inflammation, right? That was one of the markers of aging. And we want to help to support that process of inflammation, because if we let that inflammation, especially chronic like that, go on for longer, it only makes things worse. It actually starts to break down systems. So any way we can support a healthy inflammatory response, only better, right? That we do that. So with these two together, supporting the clearing of those cells, supporting a healthy inflammatory response, as well as supporting your protection against free radicals, which, by the way, are happening all the time. Just by breathing, drinking, eating, being in the sun, you are creating free radicals. These help to support the process of neutralizing those as well, so they're very powerful for that as well. And so if we put these to the test, the science is definitely on the side of when we help to clear out the cells and support that inflammation like that, we are supporting our health span at the exact same time. And again, we can get them from all those foods. It's just in very small amounts, and if we want a little bit of support, targeted supplementation is definitely one of those ways to go. Nutri, again, comes back because, again, they're one of those longevity companies that I've already thought about all these markers, right? These causes of aging, they've already looked into all of them. So they've kind of gone out of their way to look at those compounds already. And they specifically, in this formula, they use a 500 milligram serving size that's consistent with the Mayo Clinic's research on senescent cell clearance. So this is actually a clinical dosage that, just like it says in the bottle, that they got from those studies that the Mayo Clinic did. And so clearing those senescent cells, again, one other thing I didn't mention, it crosses the blood-brain barrier, which is amazing because not a lot of things do that. So we're also supporting cognitive health at the exact same time that we're supporting that inflammation response, right? That healthy inflammation response, the free radical fighting capability, and the clearing of those cells all in one go. And this is a really high amount too. So definitely something to look into if all of those sound good to you. And I know I said quercetin or quercetin now has a really great option. In this case, it really doesn't matter which option you go with, but as long as you're getting a good amount of the quercetin and you're taking them together, it's only going to be beneficial in that regard. Plus, quercetin is good for so many other things too. It's great for your immune health. Seasonal immune response is at one of the top things that it supports in the body. So definitely a very nice option here. Next is urolithin A. This is very unique because it's actually a postbiotic, meaning it's what is produced after it gets processed, which is really incredible, honestly. And specifically when your gut bacteria process the compounds that are metabolized, those polyphenols that are metabolized by your gut, they make urolithin A. So when we eat foods like pomegranates, like walnuts and raspberries, we can actually use those compounds in those foods and make urolithin A. And it's important because urolithin A is amazing for helping to support mitophagy. Right? The autophagy was the first one. The mitophagy is that mitochondrial support of clearing out the damaged mitochondria and then renewing new mitochondria. Urolithin A is amazing for helping out with that. Plus, it's got some great benefits for joint health as well at the same time. Muscle function is another big one. Endurance is part of its benefit as well. One thing, though, to be said about urolithin A is that, yes, you can make it if you eat these foods, but only about 40% of the population has an adequate amount of good gut bacteria to actually turn those compounds into urolithin A. The rest, the 60% of us, the rest of us, we unfortunately don't make it as well. And it really just comes down to the quality, again, of our microbiome. So if we're taking care of ourselves and we're eating our greens and we are supporting our bacteria in a variety of ways in our gut health, there's a really good chance that, yeah, you are making urolithin A. But if not, and, for a lot of people who are, they just drink whatever, eat whatever, sleep whenever, do whatever they like whenever, they might not be as good as turning those foods into urolithin A. So again, because of that, it's good to find a source if we're trying to figure out how we can support, again, our joints, our mitochondria at the same time. One option, again, is from Nutrient. And we have 500 milligrams that they're providing in the one serving here in their supplement. And again, a healthy inflammatory response, but also oxidative stress response, meaning we are always oxidizing. If you ever cut an apple and you set it out and it starts to get kind of brown and wrinkly, it's essentially what's happening to us. We're getting wrinkly. We may not be getting brown, but we're getting a little wrinkly. That's oxidation, and that's free radicals causing a lot of damage. And that's, again, happening to everything that is living, that essentially living and can degrade. In compounds like urolithin A can help to support that process, that oxidative stress that is being put on our body every single day just by being human. This is one of those compounds that can definitely support that. And the same milligram amount that we see here is actually equivalent to the same amount of urolithin A you would get if you drank a gallon of pomegranate juice. So if you were ever wondering, does this have a good amount in it? Yeah, I would say so. About equivalent to a gallon of pomegranate juice, definitely. So it's going to support the mitophagy, like we said, the muscle aging and endurance as well. And of course, like I said earlier, joint health, but also cartilage health too. So if we're trying to keep our joints and our cartilage around for as long as possible, this is definitely one of those compounds that can help to support that too. Next is calcium AKG, amazing compound, or calcium alpha ketoglutarate. Very long word, AKG, it will suffice. This is a natural molecule that's central to the Krebs cycle, which is essentially the cell's main factory for creating ATP, right? And we know we need ATP. We need it everywhere in the body. And it's essentially turning food into ATP, right? And so if we are able to make a good amount of ATP, right, get that food that's able to do that, we're able to help our energy levels, our muscle health as well, but also our bone health too. This is a great compound for helping to support bone health at the exact same time. And one thing that we also often see and hear is that as we get older, our metabolism is just not as good as it used to be as well. This also focuses on metabolic health at the exact same time. So definitely great. It's actually very unique in the sense that it also supports gene expression, healthy gene expression. So what does that mean, right? It's how well our genes essentially express and continue to churn out, right, in a healthy way. We're constantly making more DNA, and the way that this DNA expresses itself, obviously we want it to be in a healthy way so we don't have many issues, but we've all heard of gene mutations and a lot of things that can happen with that. If we're trying to support that process and just keep ourselves as healthy as possible, obviously a healthy diet and lifestyle is crucial, right? Stress levels and sleep, all those are going to help to support gene expression. But this is one of those ways that we can support that with a compound that you can get in a supplement. So Studies show that restoring a good amount of that AKG, right, helps to essentially support health span and longevity. Also, it helps the clearance of ammonia, which we don't want too much of. So also very good there. You may have noticed there's calcium at the beginning of the name, right? This is not a calcium supplement. The weight of this calcium that's in here is about 20 to 30% of the entire supplement. So if we're talking about one serving, you're only getting about maybe 200 to 300 milligrams of calcium. Definitely not in any way, replacing a calcium supplement. So if you were kind of looking at that, you're like, I'm already taking something. Still, you're totally fine if you'd like to take something like this. So one other thing I want to mention is that there's a lot of studies that are focused on calcium AKG, and they focus on many things that I have to be very careful with how I say things because we are a retailer and we have limits to what we can say. But I will say the studies on calcium AKG are so interesting, and I would definitely encourage you guys to look into it a little bit more because it is a very special compound. Yeah, when I was doing that research, I'm like, man, I wish I could talk about all of this. People would be like, oh, I'm going to find this right away. Where's it at? How come we haven't heard about it? Again, it's one of those things too that's very scarce in food. So it is a way, supplementation is a way to make sure you get some if you would like to incorporate that. And very unique here as well is that we only have one company and there's only one product. This Coatage liposomal calcium AKG, the only one we have, it's that small bottle over there. No one else sells it that we carry here. So it's very unique in that regard as well. It's also liposomal. If anyone's heard of liposomal, you know that increases the absorption rate by many times. So if we're talking about, oh, I want to make sure that what I'm taking, I'm actually absorbing, liposomal is going to help with that by many times. So definitely a good addition to that. So metabolism, energy, muscle strength, and bone health, and gene expression and gene health. This is huge. Yeah. Next is NAC and glycine, or like I said in the beginning, GlyNAC. This combines N-acetylcysteine, which provides the cysteine, and then the glycine, and they kind of complete each other. And they both are needed to help to make our master free radical fighter, glutathione. We make glutathione, and it supports so many different aspects in our body, like cognitive health, like liver detoxification and detoxification as a whole, but also our free radical fighting ability. Right? I was saying earlier that our bodies are always kind of fighting free radicals due to a variety of factors. Glutathione is one of the main one that we use in our body naturally to fight off these free radicals and neutralize them. And the combination of NAC and glycine helps you make it in a very efficient, very high amount, which is really amazing. When it comes to glutathione, it is one of those compounds that declines very rapidly as we age. So it's important to support that as well as we can as we get older. The amazing thing is that NAC is great by itself, and you can definitely make glutathione just by taking NAC. But when you put it with glycine, it kind of becomes magic. And this is a running theme with glycine, because pretty much anything a lot of things that you put with glycine increases the absorption. Glycine just naturally, right? Has anyone taken magnesium glycinate, right? So they're essentially combining magnesium, they're chelating it, combining it with glycine, and the absorption is so good with magnesium glycinate. Again, they combine that. And that kind of goes on and on. A lot of things that you combine with glycine really help to support absorption. So with these, we also have seen that in studies that these are great for supporting oxidative stress, and this combination supports the declines that we naturally see when it comes to glutathione. So where do we get it? Well, it doesn't grow on a tree. Well, I mean, kind of. Well, if we want to get a good amount, right? Nutri has a combo of the NAC and the glycine that actually has been shown to increase glutathione levels by up to 300% in their studies, which is amazing. This is another one of those compounds too that crosses the blood-brain barrier to support cognitive function too. So even more amazing, right? We're helping to our brain out at the same exact time. I will say as well, one that's not really shown, not really talked about a lot when it comes to glutathione is eye protection. And that's huge, right? We want to make sure we're supporting our eye health at the exact same time that we're supporting our brain and our ability to fight free radicals. So definitely a great option here. Though I do want to mention, it doesn't have to be one brand that combines the two. You can actually buy NAC and buy glycine. You take them at the exact same time. It gives you the exact same effect. And I am so glad that that's the case, because that means that we're not locked into anyone's like, oh my God, you got to buy ours, right? If it's not ours, you're not making enough, glutathione. It's got to be our special formula. In this case, it's not true. You can actually just take them at the exact same time from different brands. It doesn't have to be this brand at all. And it still does the exact same thing. So no gatekeeping. Yeah. The next compound is taurine. Taurine is an abundant, conditionally essential amino acid. And I say this because we make taurine in our bodies already. It's very normal to make taurine, though as we age, this is one of the sharpest declines in production that we've ever seen from a natural compound. After the age of 50, levels can decline up to 80%, which is just incredibly, like, why? Why does that happen? It's one of the sharpest declines for sure that we see. And what's crazy is that we can get this from food. You can definitely get this from food. And you can increase your levels by eating things like fish, some plants, right? Seaweed is another good way. Mushrooms and soybeans are also good ways to get this. And so let's make sure we're getting it through food, obviously. But with that much of a drop, it's hard, right? How do you even eat enough food to replace that much taurine that you're not making as much anymore? And it's incredibly important that we do, because we find taurine in the most metabolically active areas in the body, like your heart, like your brain, like your muscles, pretty much everything you want to keep healthy as you age. And we see the sharpest declines in taurine in those areas. Like, why? So another big thing is that it's incredibly important at helping cellular health, meaning the regulation of minerals and water within the cell. It's actually a big part of keeping your cells healthy, and taurine is in charge of that. So we also want to make sure we're supporting that process too. So with that, it's like, okay, well, how do we kind of put this in a phrase of like, what do we do? Do we just eat all the food that we can? Well, probably not, right? That's going to be a little bit hard to do, especially when studies say that low taurine levels are linked to faster aging. I will say it's definitely better to look ahead. Definitely get it from your diet, but supplementation is one of those ways that we can get it in a very high amount. And a lot of studies have actually shown that 1, 2, even 3 grams are really quick and easy ways to kind of bring in taurine. Obviously, we will always want to follow the suggested use panel on the back to make sure we're not taking too much of anything. But definitely, just getting it in a pill is way easier, and it's one of those ways that we can help to restore levels to adequate, to good amounts, right, that our bodies can actually use to support longevity. I put this one here because it's at a very high 1,000 milligram dose. And I believe the suggested use says that you can take 2 of them. So you're at 2 grams if you're really trying to support and get, bring up your taurine levels in a quick way. I also want to mention this one because of the fact that it's got the taurine that I'm talking about, but it actually comes in to support other aspects of longevity too. This combines something called metoprime, which is a clinically tested form of L-ergothioneine, which we'll get into a second. But we have the taurine, but it also combines it with berberine. Has anyone heard of berberine? And so berberine is amazing for helping to support your overall healthy blood sugar levels, right, within a normal range. Metabolic health is also right at the top of the list of what it supports. A lot of people have used it in a way to help to support their weight loss goals as well. So taurine comes in to support everything we've been talking about, but berberine comes in to support your metabolic health and your overall healthy blood sugar levels. And then something called metoprime, which is L-ergothioneine. It's an amino acid that comes from mushrooms and things like red beans and other sources like that. That has been nicknamed the longevity vitamin. And it's because it's amazing for helping to support your body from oxidative stress and also cognitive support at the exact same time. So it being all combined together with the taurine and the berberine supports so many different levels of your body to support healthy brain aging, but also providing neuroprotection as we age. That's incredibly important, right? We want to protect our brain. Next, we're getting into the foundationals, which, starting with omega-3s, EPA, and DHA. These are essential for maintaining cellular health, but also supporting a healthy inflammatory response throughout the entire body. Pretty much, there's nothing that EPA doesn't touch in your body. Kind of like there's nothing that good sleep doesn't support in your body. It's very unique. It's a very unique compound, and we cannot get it anywhere from besides our diet, right? So it's incredibly important to make sure that we're eating the foods we need to get a good amount of this. On the other side, that DHA is going to help to support cognitive function and vision and your overall neural protection as well, kind of like our last compound too. Now, these are usually best obtained from food, right? So fatty fish, like salmon and whatever else is your choice. And if you're eating about 2 to 3 fish meals a week, you're probably getting enough omega-3s, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you're not, then you're pretty much not getting it from anywhere else. Fish is definitely, I would say, the easiest food way to get it. Now, the fish do have their source, which is algae, and that is definitely one of those ways that you can take it as well in an algae supplement. Though a lot of people are like, what about flaxseed and chia seed? I thought we could get omega-3s from that. We can get ALA from that, alpha linoleic acid, which does convert into EPA and DHA, but the conversion is so low. And on the highest end, it's only about 10%. So if you have 1,000 milligrams of flaxseed, only about 100 of that is probably going to turn into EPA and DHA. But again, that's on the highest end. Usually we see 1 to 3 to 5% conversion. So it's not a reliable source to get your omega-3s. But ALA is still amazing for your hair, skin, and nails. So why not still, eat flax seeds and chia seeds and walnuts, right? Why not? So omega-3s are also amazing for metabolic function and your overall flexibility too. It's great for your joints, right? Supports healthy joints. And who doesn't want that? And who doesn't need that as we look into longevity, right? Supporting a healthy inflammatory response, joints, brain, eyes, and metabolic health, all in one supplement. That's pretty amazing, right? So that's why they're literally called essential fatty acids. We just can't get them from anywhere else, and we should be taking them every single day. So let's go into a couple options there, because we definitely want to support all of these factors as we age. And one option that I put here is Vital Omegas, so Vital Planets, Vital Omega. I know it says critical care, but it's only because it's got such a high amount, which is really great. A lot of people are maybe a little bit too low, so especially to start out, they might want to take a little bit more. But having a good amount of omega-3s never hurt anybody. There are multiple studies showing, much more, milligrams than this still being very safe. So at about 2350, 100 milligrams, that's totally fine. And we're still supporting everything that we've been talking about up until now. Another benefit here is that there's no fishy aftertaste, right? It's enteric coated. Plus, there's an enzyme called lipase in here that helps to break down fat. And that just makes so much sense, right? It's a fatty supplement. Why not put in an enzyme that actually breaks down fat? It just makes sense. All the other, fish oils, they need to catch up. And on top of that, this has vitamin D3, which is amazing for your immune health, your metabolic health. You need it for so many areas in the body. And it's just as crucial. So definitely, getting a little bit more and making sure we have enough is crucial as well. I also like that it's sustainably sourced. Plus, they're using fish soft gels here, which is kind of cool to think that, right? It's very nice. Why not use the whole fish? Plus, it's third-party tested and clinically tested as well as pharmaceutical grade, meaning we have so many tests done to get to that grade that it's a very clean product. And on the flip side, we have algae omega-3s. Again, the fish need a source of omega-3s, and this is their source in the ocean. It's one of their main sources. The fish have omega-3s because they eat this. And we can eat this too. So if you want to cut out the middle fish, this is one of those ways to do that. It still supports all the same things. We do have a lower milligram count here at 1,210 milligrams, but still actually a really good amount because the consensus is 500 to 1,000 is a good number to reach. This has 1,210, so we're good there. Plus, for those who are vegan or vegetarian, they can take this. So anybody can take this. Next is magnesium. This is an essential mineral found in so many of our natural foods, right? Like leafy greens and nuts and seeds and beans and whole grains. And it supports over 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. And we need it to support our relaxation, our sleep, our nerve health, and your heart health. Heart rhythms are definitely very much benefited here as well. And it's one of the main electrolytes too. So if we're talking hydration, we need magnesium. It's incredibly important to make sure that we're getting enough of it. And I feel like by now, most people have heard of that, right? Of getting enough magnesium. Thankfully, it's gotten very trendy to take your magnesium, and for good reason too. It's actually one of the good trends, as opposed to everything else on the internet, right? That's not so good. So definitely amazing for helping with ATP in the body too. So we need it for that energy, as well as helping to regulate the balance of the calcium and the potassium in our body too. So it's so crucial, and getting enough is so important. At this point, I'm just banging that drum. And one of the options that we have here, and we actually has been gaining popularity, is our magnesium formulas that have more than one option of magnesium in them. And this one has 12, so you're definitely covered in this regard. And these are so many different areas of the body that are being supported, like our cognitive health, the muscle, the metabolic health, our brain. 420 milligrams in 4 capsules, which may seem like a lot, but most brands are around that same amount of capsules. If we want to get a good amount, 3 to 4 is usually what the companies suggest you take. So very highly absorbable as well, and we're kind of covering every area. So it's really good. Next is vitamin D3. And by now, I'm sure that everyone here takes vitamin D3, right? This is best obtained by sun exposure. But there's so many different forms that we sell here, like lanolin, right? That one's coming from sheep's wool. There's also mushrooms and algae and mosses, right? Those are always also great options to get your vitamin D. Specifically, the vitamin D that we have here is a vitamin, right? But when you are out in the sun, you're making it. It's a hormone. And so it does so many different things. And depending on your melanin content that you have, right, you have to stay out on the sun for a longer or shorter amount of time. So if you can get outside, right, awesome, that's the way to get it. But if you can't, a supplement is a way to go about it, and preferably one that actually has some K2 in it, because K2 is amazing for your mitochondrial health, but it's also amazing for helping to make sure that the calcium that you're absorbing from your diet is actually making its way to the bone where it's got to go, and preferably out of the arteries as well. We definitely don't want that calcium hardening, right, in the arteries. K2 is like, no, I'll get you. It's like a shuttle bus, right? It's like, you stop there, it picks up all the calcium, takes it to the bone, and the bone's like, all right, let's start making this density, this bone more dense. So we can get K2 from many natural sources, but most people don't like fermented, natto, right? I don't know if everyone's heard of natto. Slimy, sticky, nasty stuff. But if you like that, then yeah, you can get your K2 from natto. A lot of these companies, they have forms of K2 that they get from fermented chickpeas or other kind of fermented sources. So I would say a supplement's probably an easier way to get that. So together, they work so well and so synergistically together to make sure that we're absorbing calcium, and the vitamin D is really well absorbed as well, but also to make sure that the calcium gets to where it's got to go. So to support cardiovascular function, immune health, and overall longevity, really. Bone health, yeah. So this is one great option. It's actually a plant-based vitamin D3. They're getting it from algae. So you have the vitamin D at 5,000 IU, 90 micrograms for the K2, and you have a little bit of inulin, which is a natural prebiotic, which is a food for your probiotics, right? The beneficial bacteria in your gut. So you're also supporting your gut health at the exact same time. I know a lot of people are like, I just want a quick liquid, put it in something, take it real quick. So this is another option. A liquid vitamin D3 is a really easy way to modulate how much you take, right? If you want a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the day. This is definitely one of those ways that you can, kind of change that up. So now that we've covered vitamin D3 and all the other nutrients that we've been talking about, I want to zoom out for a moment and look at the different aspects, different lifestyle aspects that help to support longevity, that really build upon, right, things. Because these supplements are great and they definitely help to support us in many different ways, but we need foundations, right? We need, I'd rather build the lifestyle foundations and then the supplements on top of it where it's needed. Because it's not just, it's mostly not about supplements. It's mostly about how we live our lives every single day. So let's look at the daily habits that help everything kind of fall into place. These are doable, steady lifestyle habits that create a foundation that everything else rests upon, such as a short walk every single day, right? Even after a meal, a short walk helps with circulation and glucose balance and overall mitochondrial function too. Including protein, right? Making sure we're getting enough nutrients and protein with every meal to support muscle mass and overall endurance as well, and strength, because we need to keep that strength. The muscle you have early on is the muscle you take with you as you age. So we got to make sure we are, taking care of that, because muscle truly is longevity insurance, right? The more muscle we have, the better we'll end up at the end. Colorful fruits and veggies will bring in those natural compounds, those polyphenols that we need to support our health in so many ways, as well as supporting the different pathways of longevity as well. And of course, we can't forget a consistent sleep schedule, as well as being paired with morning light exposure to support our circadian rhythm, right? That's incredibly important. And all this influences your mood and your overall hormones and immune health. So we got to make sure we're sleeping well and we're supporting our circadian rhythm well as well. But I would also say that a few moments of slow breathing and grounding and mindfulness supports the stress aspect of it, right? Because we want to make sure that we are also supporting our resiliency and how well we respond to stress. And we can't do that when we are high strung at 24 hours a day. We have to find those moments to ground ourselves, right? On top of that, hydration and minerals keep us healthy. We need those minerals in every area of our bodies. So making sure that we're hydrated. Our water is not just water, but it's water with, those electrolytes. That's incredibly important as well. And then lastly, incorporating moments of connection is huge. Because just like we were talking about with the blue zones, those centenarians spend a lot of time and emphasize connection with those around them, right? And it helps us literally with everything that we see here. Connection is going to support each one of those things. And these are simple, but they're very powerful, practical habits that are a very amazing base for longevity. But what does the week look like, right? Well, the week looks like very, strong habits that build upon those dailies, right? The dailies that kind of lead into the weekly. You have a good day, you have a good week, and then you have a good month, and you have a good, year, and that kind of continues, right? These are great because they build upon that resiliency as well as the energy, and they help to reinforce everything you do every single day. And why not, right? So first and foremost, strength training. Because like I said earlier, muscle is really longevity insurance. And the muscle you have with you is what you take with you. So making sure we're strong and resilient, as soon as we can be, is just a way to get to, longevity in a more healthy way. And 2 to 3 sessions a week is usually the agreed upon amount by experts. Zone 2 cardio. Anyone heard of that? Right? Zone 2 cardio. It's essentially a level of cardio in which you're kind of like, you're working out and you can hold a conversation, right? You can talk to somebody, but you can still keep going. That's essentially zone 2. And it's very important because zone 2, it actually is amazing for helping with mitochondrial health, but also your resiliency, and it creates it supports aerobic activity, lung capacity, so much, right? That kind of keeps us healthy for as long as possible. Mobility work, right? Stretching and recovery. I will say recovery is huge. A lot of people are like, you got to work out this many days a week. But not everyone is like, you got to recover for this many days a week. It's like, why not? It's funny because I've talked to so many people that work out every single day, but they're like, I'm not really seeing as many results as I would like. They take one day off to recover and they see bumps of increase faster because it gave their body a chance to recover. So it's not just about all the work you put in every single day. It's about how well you treat your body afterwards, because it's about the buildup, right? It's not about the breakdown. The breakdown is that exercise, but the buildup is where you build up even stronger, right? So, and recovery is where you find that. Weekly nutrition planning. This only makes it easier to get those nutrients that we've been talking about, right? Those colorful fruits and veggies, if you know you're going to be getting them because you're planning it out, it only makes sure that you get those nutrients that you're actually wanting to get, right? That they're shooting for. And then lastly here, second to last, is making time for meaningful connection, but also time in nature, because we're meant to be in nature, right? There's so many studies that show that when you go into nature, everything kind of starts to ground you, right? You start to get more grounded, and your energy levels are better. Your overall mood is better. Your overall outlook is better when we're out there. I believe it's the Japanese who have the term of like nature. I believe it's nature bathing, forest bathing, where they make a point to go out and spend time in the forest because of how many studies have shown that is so good for you. And it's like, I'm going out to forest bathe. I know it sounds a little weird. I'm sure they don't say that exactly, but that is the term that they've kind of fallen on. And so now that we've covered these foundations, right, that we can kind of build upon and help us support those foundations of longevity, let's talk about how supplements, again, can be layered on that. Because there truly are foundational supplements, and then there are targeted supplements, right? Because the point should be to not take everything, right? Not everyone needs everything. More is not always better, and it's best when we do things intentionally, when we're talking about supplementation. And so going through what we've been talking about, you can think of this as layers, right? To kind of layer upon your foundational lifestyle habits. These are the foundational supplements that you kind of add on top of those foundational lifestyle habits. But what about when we're trying to support NAD+? Well, we can look to NMN or NR to help us support those energy, endurance, and metabolic health within our cells, right? Or if we're trying to support autophagy, right, and in our mitochondrial health, that's where spermidine and urolithin A come in. So we're trying to support the renewal of the cells and our overall energy that we can create within our mitochondria. That's the way to go. If we're trying to support our muscle and metabolism, we want to focus on taurine and calcium AKG. But actually, honestly, after 50, I think everyone should take taurine, since those levels, they fall so sharply. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be taking taurine. If we're trying to support that cellular senescence, right, the clearing of those cells that are dysfunctional and no longer needed, that's where fisetin and quercetin come in. But also, we're also supporting so many other aspects, right? And then glutathione, our body's master free radical fighter. NAC and glycine will help to support those levels and help us make more. So we can support our liver detoxification. our cognitive function, and our ability to fight off these free radicals and support oxidative stress. So the key takeaway here is personalization. It's about supporting the right systems at the right times in an intentional way. And so with that frame in mind, I want to leave you with a framework to think about longevity as a whole, right? Because longevity isn't about chasing more years, right? It's about protecting the years that you have and the life that we live within those years, right? And how we can think and how we move and how resilient we are in those years that we have. But it's also about maintaining choices, right? The choice to stay independent and self-sufficient and creative and curious and engaged with people and ourselves for as long as possible. That is really what longevity should look like. And by incorporating those foundations of longevity, like those lifestyle factors, and then figuring out where you would like to layer upon those supplements to target the very specific things that are, again, personal to you, we can support longevity as a whole, but also enhance our quality of life and enjoy those years that we have to the fullest. Thank you.